You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch. Welcome to this week's episode of Stupid Bitches Say What, the Aussie podcast about everything and nothing, and usually always with wine. But this chilly Saturday morning is not a day for day drinking, please. It's for coffees and teas, but always with your host, Scarly Collett, Sean Hipkins.
Good morning. This week it's pop culture, and are you ready to get your culture popped? Plus, listening as we discuss the cultural phenomenon that is the 27 Club. Please note, we are not glorifying this said phenomenon. We are just discussing the topic of it. Plus, in particular, focusing on Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Jim Morrison, and Janis Joplin. Please. What are you drinking, Sean Bino Hipkins?
Well, you stupid bitch. We had a little bit of a chinwag for this episode, so I'm pretty much halfway through said drink. But I'm having a sweet vanilla Nespresso Virtuoso coffee, cappuccino style without the chocolate dressing on top. And it's delicious. It's a new flavor that Nespresso have brought out, the sweet vanilla. They used to have a vanilla pudding that was shit, but this one's nice.
Oh, I love my flavored coffees. They're my favorite.
Really hits the spot. And what, pray tell, are you drinking, you stupid bitch, Sky?
Well, look, I've been hammering away preparing for this podcast since just after 7 a.m. this morning. So I've already had my coffee.
Nice.
And if I had another one, I'd be blowing my head off while I'm doing the podcast. So I'm just drinking a little cup of tea. Now, it is a Bengal spice, celestial seasonings.
Oh, celestial.
Herbal tea.
Oh, and what flavors is that spice? Is it like a chai
it's
or?
caffeine free. It's brimming with cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, and cloves. The adventurous blend is our caffeine-free interpretation of chai.
It is like a chai.
Piquant Indian brew, traditionally made with black tea. Try it with milk and sugar for a true chai experience.
Now, is that piquant or piquant?
Piquant, please. I don't normally like chai. I think it's the milk element that grosses me out and the really sugary flavor of it. But this is delicious and I love it. So it's chai-like, but I don't have any milk in and I don't have any sugar in.
Oh, I love a chai latte.
I love
with soy milk, please. The only time I really have soy milk is with the chai latte on soy.
Well, this is delish. It's really hitting the spot also.
Good. Chai latte is my go-to after I've had a coffee. Like if I'm going out for an afternoon coffee, it's a chai latte, please. Don't need the caffeine to keep me awake.
Don't need the caffeine in the afternoon. Yes, I know this about you. You can have your 2 coffees in the morning.
That's it.
But not in the afternoon, please.
Fucks with my sleep cycle.
So how's your week been, stupid bitch? Tell us.
It's been nice, actually. Vinny and I we'd planned to have a mini staycation this week, just a cheeky 3 days off at the beginning of the week. Chilled out, did a couple of house chores, went to the pub one day. So we went
to the pub one day.
Yes, we were both meant to have the 3 days off after a friend's wedding celebrations on the Saturday. And Vinny then, because we had an unexpected 2 days off 2 weeks prior due to some personal reasons, Vinny had to use leave for that and then had to forego 2 days of this leave. So I had 2 days home alone, which I liked, and used one of those days to go to the pub by myself for some pints and a pokey, which was fun. But I do want to talk about the Saturday night. So
can I just say also, commenting on that, I spoke to you while you were at said pub and you were well into your cups by that point. And I said, whoa, how many pints have you had, please? Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, yeah. I was still playing the poker.
You were well and truly
oiled
into the cups.
It was nice having a little lunchtime pub pint.
Party for one. I love a little party for one.
I passed out at 6 o'clock that night too. Vinny said we were in bed and I was watching TV and I was like, I think I'm falling asleep. And he said 5 seconds later, I was there just going, passed out. But the Saturday night is what I want to have a bit of a chat about, some
Sure.
experiences we had. So after we got back from our friends' party celebrations, we decided that we wanted to have a few more drinks. So we headed off to our real local pub. And so we kept it local. I won't mention the name, but it was a mistake. We got our pint and we went downstairs to their pokie room. And I have to say, the pokie room is one that feels quite unsafe. There's no staff down there. You literally go downstairs, so you're under the pub. There's no staff down there, no security. There's a doorway that goes from the pokie room straight out to the car park. So any old fucker can walk in, grab your winnings and run out. But when we went down there, there was 3 guys that were in there and they were like boisterous men. One of them was on a free games feature and his friend was behind him with his iPhone recording him and talking about, his win and all this shit. And then Vinny went and sat at this machine, which he didn't realize had $100 credit in it. And the biggest guy out of the 3 who was doing the recording turns around and is like, "Oh, you're sitting there, are you?" And I'm like, "Vinny, there's credit in that." He's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know." So it's all right, mate. I'll fight you for it if you want. I'm like, "Oh my God. Okay, just play it cool. Sit down on a pokey. Vinny, move your ass." So I sat down on a pokey, and then this sort of the more docile out of the 3 came up behind me when I put $50 in. He's like, "I just took the major out at $800. I was like, "Oh, did you?" And he goes, "Yeah, but keep playing. You might get it again. You might get something." I'm like, "Okay." So I kept playing, drinking my pint.
Thanks for your recommendation.
Get me the fuck out of here. And then Vinny got free games on his machine. And I blitzed my 50, took my half pint over to Vinny to just get the fuck out. And the guy came running over with his camera. And we realized at this time he's going live on Facebook and he's talking to his friends up in Cairns and he's filming Vinny about the free games and all this shit. And we're just like, "Oh my God, this is not fun." So we
abort.
We got rid of Vinny's fucking 50 and then we went upstairs with the rest of our pints to finish it off. And as we were sat at this little table for 2, we could see across the way this drunk guy. He kept sort of looking longingly over at us and just thinking, "Oh, for fuck's sake, what the fuck is going on here?" Came waddling over and he goes to me, "Do you guys mind if I join you? Are you looking for some company?" And we're like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Yeah, we're just about to head off, but you're welcome to stay for the last 5 seconds of this pint, blah, blah, blah." Next minute, the fucking other big guy comes up from downstairs and Vinny's like, "And you head case, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Don't use those words with him, babe. We're going to die." The guy that his name was Eugene, the one that came over and asked to join us, he then starts saying, we're like, "How are you, Eugene?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just coming down off the adrenaline, from fucking these skinheads and Nazis and rah, rah, rah." And I was just like, I am going to end up cut up and put into a barrel very soon. We tried to get an Uber from that pub to our more fun local, the Boundary Hotel, but they just kept cancelling. So we just fucking legged it in the end. But yeah, it was a terrifying night. But we did end up winning $1,000 on the pokies at the Boundary. So that was good.
I'm glad you ended up safe.
I know. And $1,000 richer.
And didn't die.
How was your week, you stupid bitch?
My week has also been good. I have 2 things that I want to talk about. One I've been dying to talk about in this podcast since the end of last season. But the first thing I will mention is that tomorrow is my 1-year wedding anniversary.
Yes, that's why you're doing something nice today.
Yeah, so congratulations to my beautiful husband of 1 year, 4 years in total, actually.
It's fun seeing those memories coming up on Facebook of our getaway down to the Sunny Coast.
It makes me so happy. So yeah, 1 year with the old ball and chain. This evening we are going on a little river cruise, and then we're going to stay at South Bank in a hotel for the evening. A little dirty night away.
Nice.
So very much looking forward to that. And celebrating. And we've also got a bit of frozen frozen wedding cake in the freezer that our dear friend Hutchie said to me that I needed to freeze a chunk, and then on our 1-year anniversary we should eat it with a glass of champagne.
Oh no.
Then she said to me this morning, messaged me and said, "Oh, I hope you didn't stick it next to any garlic bread." And I was like, well, Hutchie, it's been in there for a year. I don't really know what it's been sat next to most of that time. I'm sure it's spun around a few times. It is in Tupperware though, so
That should keep the
hopefully,
garlic fumes out.
hopefully it will be okay. I'm not expecting it to be any type of deliciousness though after 12 months, but we'll see. The other thing I want to talk about that I have been dying to talk about since last season is that those of you who listened religiously last season would know that I got obsessed with a little TV show called Medium.
Yes.
And it was something that Beto tried very hard to get me away from, to watch other shows that he wanted me to watch, and I just refused because I was so hooked. There were 7 seasons. Most seasons were about 20-ish episodes. And then they cancelled it, really. They had given it its final run orders, but then they cancelled it just after mid-season. Was obsessed with it. It was a great show. Had a few little lags and things like that. So if you're into the supernatural and psychics and things like that, then you would, and solving murders, you would enjoy it. But only if you're into those things, I would expect that you would enjoy it. But there was quite the love story between, the psychic Alison and her husband, and they'd been together.
Alison Dubois
and Joe Dubois. Their beautiful 3 daughters. So they were college sweethearts, and he had put up with so much. Like sometimes she'd forget who she was, or sometimes she couldn't speak in English. She'd speak another language because she was reincarnating the dead person that she was trying to help. So all these, sometimes she'd wake up as a completely different person.
Didn't she go through that? Oh God, I can't remember what the phenomenon's called now, where you get the bleeding marks like Jesus.
I don't know about that one, but she had a brain tumor and she nearly died, and she had a whole couple of things. And sometimes she'd wake up in the middle of a busy highway. She wouldn't know how she'd get there, and she nearly die. Like he went through a lot of trauma with her. Like it was pretty insane. And even Tyler was, hey,
Stigmata is what it's called.
Oh yes, no. Oh, she may have in one episode or something, but it wasn't long. She didn't put up with it for long. They usually just last for one episode.
60 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. But even Tyler was quite obsessed with it and took a massive liking to the husband, Joe Dubois. So he was really into it. And then we pretty much watched the final season together. And we got to like the last 2 or 3 episodes. And I said, I think we were sitting up having a few wines, and I think we had to work the next day. And I was like, fuck it, let's just watch through.
It's power
to
on.
finish it. And so we did. And it was honestly the most brutal, despicable ending of a TV show that I've ever committed to in my life. Like I was so mad at the end that I wanted to punch a wall. And I literally said to Tyler, don't talk to me. I need you to just not talk to me for like 20 minutes. I need to just calm down and get over this. Because they killed off the husband. So they did it in 2 ways. They killed him off at the beginning of the episode, the final episode, and made him die in a plane crash. So then, and the whole time you were like, nah, because all the episodes had a little bit of a feel like that. They'd start off with one thing and end up in the other, So you were like, nah, he's going to come back. Anyway, so then the whole episode was written around the fact that even though he died in a plane crash, they never found his body. So 10 years later, she's like she was a lawyer, or she was studying to be a lawyer. She was a successful district attorney, and then there's this bad guy, and she finds evidence that he knows where Joe is, even though he's thought to be dead. So the whole episode is her giving up her career and everything and going to Mexico and trying to find him, and he's been brainwashed and blah, 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 blah. And then as the episode draws to a close, it's actually the fact that dead Joe is really dead and has put this idea in her head about what her life could be like in 10 years' time, and showing her that she can live without him to try to ease her through her grief. So you lose him twice. You lose him at the beginning, then you lose him all over again at the end. When you see him walk back in, you're like, oh, thank fuck, he's okay. He's alive. And then you lose him all over again because he says, I am dead. But
you're a medium, and
but fucking I tried to help you get through your grief because I know you wouldn't survive it, so I was just trying to be supportive. But yeah, you can't bring me back, I'm dead.
Bye.
It was so fucking fucked. Like to like sit with these characters for like 7 seasons and just love them so much and be so obsessed, and then for them to kill off the second best character of the show twice so brutally. I said to her, I'm going to write an angry letter. I'm
You're a
going to
bit
get
late.
CBS's fucking contact details.
When did it end in real life?
I'm going to say late 2000s or mid 2000s, maybe. I think it might have started in 2002.
2011.
There you go. Yeah, I think it started in 2002 or 2004, maybe.
Imagine if you did send a letter off to them. They're like, what the fuck?
Oh, it was the worst. And I've seen some bad TV endings of shows that I've loved, but out of everything, this just fully took my breath away, and I'm still not over it. So I finished it like probably about 2 or 3 months ago. And I still waited to the right episode of this podcast to
Release that information.
berate CBS and say, I fucking hate you guys. I
Hey,
hope you die.
Leave them alone. But yeah, so let's get on with our actual topic, shall we?
Let's get into it, plus. The 27 Club refers to a group of notable musicians and artists who died at the age of 27, but sometimes the list can also include those of some celebrity status, aka well-known folk. The term gained prominence due to the unusually high number of young and talented individuals who passed away at that age, often under tragic circumstances, meeting their untimely deaths. While the 27 Club is not an officially recognized phenomenon, it has become a cultural phenomenon and subject of speculation and fascination.
Fascination.
While the 27 Club has sparked various theories and speculation, it is worth remembering that the number 27 is purely coincidental and doesn't have any inherent significance in relation to these deaths. They're not cursed. Plus, at least not our research has found. Many experts attribute the clustering of such deaths to a combination of factors, including the intense lifestyle and pressures associated with fame, the influence of drugs and alcohol, mental health issues, and other personal circumstances. So here at Stupid Bitches Say What, we will approach the topic with sensitivity and respect for the individuals involved, focusing not only on their premature deaths, but also on their contributions to the world of music and art, and what wonderful contributions they are.
May they rest in peace.
May they rest in peace. According to Wikipedia, there are 75 listed members of the 27 Club, made up of popular musicians, artists, actors, and other celebrities, with the first on the list being none other than Joseph Merrick, aka the...
I am not an animal. I'm a human being.
I didn't even know that was his quote.
Yeah, the Elephant Man, yeah.
The only thing I know about the Elephant Man is obviously I've heard of it, the play, but also that episode. Have I ever showed you that episode of Jimmy Fallon where him and Bradley Cooper, who played him in the theatre production, comes on to promote his theatre version, and they get the giggles. And the whole clip goes for like 15 minutes of them full wetting themselves, can't finish the segment because they're crying, and it's all about the Elephant Man. No. If you have not seen it, I can't believe I haven't showed it to you before.
The
Jimmy Fallon and Bradley Cooper can't stop laughing. I think it's called something like that. But watch the long clip from the beginning. I think it's about 11, 12 minutes though. But it's totally, I showed it to Tyler not that long ago, and he was like, I can't believe you never showed this to me before. It's hilarious.
No, I'll watch it after we did the recording. My experience with the Elephant Man was, again, I've heard of him, but you know, he had the movie, and I can't remember the guy who played him. He plays Ollivander in the Harry Potter series.
Yeah, I know who you mean. Lawrence, something Lawrence. Right?
I think he did Lawrence of Arabia. John Hurt.
Oh, John Hurt.
Yeah.
The John Hurt.
Yeah, the actor.
Oh, okay.
He played the Elephant Man
in the actual motion picture film, not the theatre productions. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it was like from the 80s, like 90s. So I was really young, and I remember it being, the parents either got it on VHS before, because it probably didn't come out on TV. I was 3 at the time when it came out, but I remember just being terrified.
I do remember my mother bleating on a little bit about it, but I don't recall actually watching it. And if you were terrified by it, then I would have been terrified by it. So
and it's because like he wears a sack over his face.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that part.
And he also, the character, well, he's also portrayed in, do you know that Johnny Depp movie From Hell about Jack the Ripper?
I think vaguely, but I don't think I've seen it.
It's got, oh my God, it's got that other chick, I think it keeps it Heather. She was in
Heather Graham.
Heather Graham. So she's in it as well. And it's,
Okay.
I really enjoy it. It's another spin on Jack the Ripper, but they have Joseph Merrick there because you know how they talk about how Jack the Ripper could have been a surgeon in that. There was like a big surgeon conference, and they have John Merrick there as a exhibit basically, but he's alive, just stood there. Yeah,
that's awful, isn't it?
It is awful. A terrible thing. But yeah, he died from asphyxiation due to his abnormalities, they believe, but there was no autopsy carried out back then because of the times.
Yeah, right.
So,
and he probably wasn't expected to live a very long life either because of, the disabilities that he had.
Yeah.
So probably like, oh, well.
In the movie, all I remember is at the very end, he has to sleep propped up, like basically sitting up with about 6 pillows behind him. And he's looking at a picture on his wall of this little kid that's asleep on a pillow, just laying down in the bed. And then he goes down and lays down flat in the bed and died that night due to asphyxiation.
Well, isn't that interesting though? Because as we go through them, I believe, and look, correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly my additions to the 27 Club are all based on lifestyle choices that have killed them, not based on something that they were, infected with and had to live through, I guess, not of natural causes.
Yes, exactly. So there was also a little scientific blurb that I found around the club, and I'm going to read for you now. So according to music biographer Charles R. Cross, and I quote, the number of musicians who passed away at 27 is truly remarkable by any standard. Though humans die regularly at all ages, there is a statistical spike for musicians who die at 27. So despite the cultural significance given to musician and celebrity deaths at age 27, the claim that they are statistically more common at this age is an urban myth.
Absolutely.
By scientific research. A study by university academics published, in the British Medical Journal in December 2011 concluded that there was no increase in the risk of death for musicians at the age of 27, stating that there were equally small increases at the ages of 25 and 32. The study noted that young adult musicians have a higher death rate than the general young adult population, surmising that, and I quote, fame may increase the risk of death among musicians, but this risk is not limited to age 27. The selection criteria for musicians included in the study, based on having scored a UK #1 album between 1956 and 2007.
I was going to ask what the definition of a musician was too. Like, is it anyone who has an occupation that they play music in, or is it someone who has brought out a record, or?
But that those using that definition excluded several notable members of the 27 Club, including Hendrix, Joplin, Morrison, Pete Ham, and Ron Pigpen McKernan. Do you know Ron Pig? No, neither do I.
No.
A 2014 article at the Conversation suggested that the statistical evidence shows popular musicians are most likely to die at the age of 56. 2.2% compared to 1.3% at 27. So there you go.
There you go.
So shall we start with our mentions?
Yes, please.
Okay, so my first one is the great and late Jimi Hendrix. So Jimmy was a highly influential and innovative musician, widely regarded as one of the greatest guitarists in the history of rock music. Born on the 27th of November, 1942 in Seattle, Washington, Hendrix rose to fame in the late 1960s with his virtuosic guitar playing, innovative use of effects, and electrifying stage presence. It's weird to think he was born in 1942, though, isn't it?
I know, it's
I
crazy.
think he's sort of born in the 60s.
Wait until I talk about Kurt Cobain, though, and when he was born. That wigged me out a little bit.
Okay. So Hendrix's career was relatively short but immensely impactful. He released 3 studio albums with this band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Not not self-glorifying at all there, really, is it?
Do you remember he was at Woodstock too? And do you remember the
Yes.
crowd started dispersing because they were all ready to go home and he was the last set and he wasn't Jimi Hendrix. He was something, I can't remember what it wasn't that. It wasn't what you just said, it was something else, and he evolved to that later on, I believe.
And then they all fucking were in awe of him when he started playing his
Yes, they were.
in that. So his albums Are You Experienced, 1967, Axis, Bold as Love, 1967, and Electric Ladyland, 1968. I like that one, Electric Ladyland.
Me too.
These albums showcased his groundbreaking guitar techniques, experimental soundscapes, and fusion of various genres like rock, blues, and psychedelia. Hendrix's songs, such as Purple Haze, Hey Joe, and Voodoo Child, Slight Return, are considered classics and continue to inspire generations of musicians. I have one of his albums on vinyl, actually.
Oh, do you? I don't have a Hendrix on vinyl.
It's his greatest hits one. Tragically, however, Jimi Hendrix died on September 18th, 1970, at the age of 27. He was found unconscious at his London apartment and pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. The cause of death was asphyxia, resulting from inhalation of vomit after consuming barbiturates. Is that how you say it?
Barbiturates. The R is silent.
Barbiturates. The circumstances surrounding his death remain subject to speculation and controversy. So did he do it on purpose? Blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Did you know that Jimi Hendrix was a left-handed guitarist who played a right-handed guitar flipped upside down and restrung to accommodate his left-handed playing style?
I didn't know that specifically, but I knew he played guitar different.
Yeah,
but I didn't know that's what it was.
That's the reason.
That it was. I do think I remember something about the upside down thing, but I didn't realize it was because he was left-handed.
Yes. So this unorthodox approach contributed to his unique sound and guitar techniques. Despite the challenges this presented, Hendrix managed to create a distinct playing style that revolutionized electric guitar playing and greatly influenced future generations of musicians. His ability to adapt and excel with flipped guitar is a testament to his exceptional talent and creativity. Jimi Hendrix's influence and impact on music continues to resonate today, and I'll expand on that a little bit later. Hendrix's talent and legacy remain an integral part of rock music history. So I'd also like to share a personal story regarding Jimi Hendrix.
Please do.
No, I had not met him prior to his death, considering he died nearly a decade before I was born, you stupid bitch.
I was even going, I'm not as quick-witted as normal because I have no booze in my system.
However,
that's where all my witty banter comes from. Please, alcohol.
However, I could have convinced my husband Vinny that I had seen him perform. Chatting to Vinny about the topic this week, he seemed surprised when I mentioned I was doing Jimi and Jimi had passed away, as Vinny thought he was still alive and still producing music today. Bless him.
Oh, Vincent.
Yes. Do you have any fave Jimi Hendrix songs?
Look, he's a little bit for me. I remember getting into him probably when I was about 15 or 16 because there was a big hype surrounding it.
Yes. That would have been around the age too that Matt Deegan was performing Purple Haze at the.
Yeah, I think Purple Haze is probably the one that I enjoy the most. But to be fair, I'm probably not going to walk out and just put a record on of Jimi Hendrix. Certainly, if I'm at the pub and someone spins it, I'll be like, yeah.
I love this one.
But not a huge fan. But I recognize him for his talent. Absolutely. I thought it was pretty spunky looking too. Had a really cool vibe about him. Yeah.
Killer afro.
Yeah, killer afro, bro. And the bandanas. Remember the bandanas? That was pretty cool too.
Yeah. All right. So here's your first one.
Okay. All right. So first of all, I want to say that I had so much fun putting these topics together. I got up early this morning because I was not prepared whatsoever. and started about 7:30 just tapping away on the old keyboard. And I have to say, for the first time in a little while, this is the least amount of cutting and pasting I've actually had to do, because a lot of
Got
the
all
stuff,
the info from one place.
no, multiple. I was just fact checking a lot of things, but I ad libbed a lot of it myself, and it was just based on my knowledge of both of these people. So I'll get to my second one later on.
Very good.
But yeah, I was just basically fact checking what I was writing as I was going, just to make sure I was correct. Because believe it or not, I had a massive obsession with Jim Morrison back in the day.
Do you recall?
So Jim Morrison is my first topic. So where do I begin with Jim? Many people who knew me in my teen heyday may remember my obsession for Jim Morrison and the Doors. To wall posters, too many t-shirts to count, and a CD, yes, CD collection that seemed to never end. Not to mention his books on poetry. I had a bunch of those. I was obsessed with trying to interpret the meaning of them. I'd, pore over them of a nighttime and be like, what does he mean when he says this? Oh my God.
Kind of at the age too when you realize there was hidden meanings in song lyrics and shit like that, and it just blows your mind, doesn't it?
Exactly. So my oldest, dearest friend, Becca, love you, Bex, introduced me to the Doors film around about the same time. And the rest was history. My obsession truly became one that probably spanned close to 2 decades. All because one morning I was driving to school with my mum, and can you guess what song came on the radio? Keep your eyes on the road, your hands upon the wheel.
Oh, I didn't know that was Jim Morrison.
Yeah, aka the Roadhouse Blues, please.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Mum, who sings this song? And she's like, oh my God, this is the Doors, Sky. And I don't know which came first, that knowing that song or Beck showing me the film. I'm pretty sure the film came after it, but it was all mingled in there around about the same timing. And it was similar to Jimi Hendrix, right? Yes. All of a sudden, everyone was obsessed with the Doors for whatever reason, and it became this huge hype.
I remember that film too. And who was the guy that played him?
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer, yeah.
So, and not to mention, of course, how super dreamy he was. Yes. It was gorgeous. I used to stare at his giant poster on my wall before I went to bed every night.
Look into his eyes.
So I'm glad that you mentioned it. A little bit on the film, if you haven't seen it, it has one of the greats, Val Kilmer, playing Jim Morrison. It's a retelling of the band's rise to fame and subsequent fall back down, with Meg Ryan playing his long-suffering soulmate, Pamela Curson. It's full of music, drugs, and good-looking people, set in the 60s and 70s, directed by Oliver Stone. Stone has referred to the film as not a fact-based biography, though, but more of an impressionist painting on the real life of Jim Morrison.
Right.
So James Douglas Morrison was born in December 1943. Jesus. And ultimately, pardon moi?
Jesus, like it's another 40s baby that I'm just like, oh my God.
I know. So what was Jimi Hendrix? 42, did you
42.
say? 42. Yeah, 42. So ultimately succumbing to his death on July 3rd, 1971 in a bathtub in Paris at the age of
27.
His wife, Pamela Curson, was the one to find him. They weren't actually really married, and I'll get to that. Eyewitness claims there was a number of eyewitnesses there when he was found, even though Pam was the one who found him. Eyewitnesses claim that his final words were, "Pam, are you still there?" His official cause of death was heart failure, but those close to him believe that it was due to heart complications from a heroin overdose.
Excessive drugs.
Exactly. So it was the law at the time in Paris, because he died in Paris, was that there was no need for an autopsy. There was no suspicious circumstances, I guess. So there was never an autopsy performed, but medical professionals said it was a heart failure, but everyone knows it was drugs.
Yeah. That's why you'd want to do the autopsy, to see what the actual cause of death was.
Yeah, but it was 71. You also had to have money for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they'd need to make it worth their while, or believe that there was a purpose of performing it, I guess. So Jim Morrison was an American singer, poet, and songwriter from Florida. He was the lead vocalist of The Doors and is cited as one of the most influential frontmen in rock history, recording a total of 6 studio albums with the band. If you are to believe the rumors and the hype, Jim was a talented but tortured soul with a deep spiritual connection to the Pueblo Indians after witnessing an accident on the side of the road as a child and believing one of the victims dying from injuries entered his body.
Oh my goodness.
Do you remember that bit in the film? That's how the film starts. And they're driving along the road, and then there's all these crying Indians. And then there's busted up cars and things like that. And you never really understand the details, but the Indians are dying and some people are trying to help, I believe. But again, it was the 40s.
Yeah.
And he believes that one of those Indians that passed away entered his bodies and was always connected with him.
Wow.
This was also the root of his self-titled nickname, the Lizard King. Jim had a high IQ, but by all accounts had a heavy addiction to alcohol and drug use, which most believe led to his untimely demise. As I mentioned before, Pamela Courson was the one to find him dead in the bath. They had an open relationship, at times very charged and intense, and also described as on again, off again. My half, your half, and we're not even drinking, plus.
No. For both of us.
For both of us. And they both maintained ongoing relationships with others, whilst also being strongly committed to each other in their own way. They never married, but in Jim's final years, she took his surname. And I believe was referred to as his wife.
Yeah.
You may remember some of his most favorite songs. Do you want to tell me some that you know before I go through some of the highlights? These aren't all my favorites, by the way. These are just the ones I imagine most people will know.
The first one that comes to mind is Defo, People Are Strange.
Oh my God. I wondered if you'd know that one, because that's a little, like, it's not as well known as some of the other ones.
The Lost Boys, the beginning of Lost Boys. Every time.
That is too. Yeah, okay. It's just probably one I wouldn't have expected people to recognize straight away. It's actually quite well done in the film. Yeah. They're like having a party and they're like sort of walking around and stuff like that. And it's people are starting. It's really cool in the movie. Totally rewatch the film. So you might remember some of the most famous songs, which were Riders on the Storm, classic.
Riders on the Storm, yeah.
Light My Fire.
Oh, yes, of course.
Come on, baby, light my fire. My ultimate favorite, Love Her Madly.
Oh, yes.
Love her madly. Want to meet her daddy. Don't you love her as she's walking out the door? Of course, People Are Strange. Hello, I Love You. Remember that one? Hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name?
Yep.
Hello, I love you.
Oh, there's heaps, really, isn't there?
I could have kept going. There's so many, so many more. But they're probably the ones that most people would recognize straight off the bat. So Jim Morrison is buried in Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, France. Just so you know, I did go through a couple of pronunciations on how to say that just to make sure I got it right. And just a little bit of an interesting personal tidbit for our listeners. As a sweet little youth of 15, my obsession with the Doors, but mostly Jim Morrison, led me to a pact with myself that when I was a grown adult, I would take myself off to Paris to visit Jim's grave site. Yes. When after a bit of research, I discovered that fans flocked there to pay their respects, drinking and leaving keepsakes for their idol. And this is why I messaged you this morning. In 2014, I took myself there and experienced an almost lifelong bucket list item, trekking through 44 hectares of the cemetery, my ex-husband and 7-year-old son in tow. The site is truly remarkable, with tributes scattered far and wide. The only thing that I had on me at the time was a pair of bright green earphones that were a keepsake from an open bus. So you remember when you used to get on the open buses and they'd give you the earphones to plug in and they'd be on the long strings? Yeah. And an Eiffel Tower keychain. So using the cord of the earphones, I braided a plait through the keychain on one of the fencing barricades as my tribute. I know. I also may have had a couple of shots of whiskey.
In his honor.
And it was packed too. There was probably like 30 or 40 people there. I literally had to wait to make my way up to the barricade so I could leave my tribute and stand there plaiting it. And to find the grave was really difficult. And I think I've told you this story before, but we had one of the gypsies came up and said, I can give you this tour, and showed us all the famous grave sites, and then in the end wanted a ridiculous sum of money. And, you know, that's how they get you in.
What was the sum of money? Do you remember?
Oh God, I can't remember, but it was not worth what we had to go all the way up. Like, he did show us the sights and take us straight. Then we probably would have been walking around for ages. And I ended up giving him, I gave him something. I can't remember what I gave him, but not what he was asking.
Yeah. Did he give you shit when you were trying to leave after not?
100% he abused us. And said, this tour is not worth, you know, what you're giving me. This is, you know, carried on and swore at us in French.
At the beginning, please.
Exactly. And I was like, yeah, and my ex-husband was not having it. And I went up secretly. I was like, here, take this. Off you go.
Leave us alone.
Yeah. So, but it was, I do believe if he hadn't been our guide, we would never have probably found it, because it was well deep within the cemetery as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's also so Père Lachaise Cemetery is also the final resting place of Edith Piaf and Oscar Wilde.
Oh.
So they're also there as well.
Very famous celebrity cemetery.
Yes, it is. It was an amazing experience too. It was so cool to go through it and actually do that and be like, oh my God, I came here.
Your bucket list item, yeah.
I said I was going to do it.
And you did it. Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
And the last little tribute for him too.
Yes, yeah, there was so many things, and it sounds really gross, but there was this massive, massive tree near his grave, and I believe he's been moved a couple of times too, to try to, you know, deter people from finding him, because he's so deep in the cemetery. Because they have to have security guards and everything. Like, it's just crazy, and it gets vandalized, and people go and drink and get super messed up there and stuff, because it's a public cemetery. You don't have to pay to get in.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I forget what I was going to say then.
The tree.
The tree, and it was covered in chewing gum. So everyone had made like all these pictures of chewing gum, and they'd made it into like love hearts and peace symbols and things like that. And people had just piled on. So like this massive peace sign had just gotten massive over the years of everyone's
that was
different pieces.
A major symbol with him, wasn't it? The peace sign.
Yeah. So it was really something that you have to see with your own eyes, I think, to feel it. But it was amazing. So that's my little Jim Morrison tribute.
Jimmy. Well, I've got a J one for my next one. Janis Joplin, if you will, please. She was an iconic American singer and songwriter known for a powerful and soulful voice. Are you familiar with much of her music?
Oh, I love Janis Joplin.
Yes, she definitely does have a soulful voice, doesn't she?
Absolutely.
So born on January 19th, 1943, same year as Jimmy Morrison. So these, when you think about it, like she was 43, Jimmy was 43, my Jimmy was 42. So they all died. There would have been a succession of 27 deaths in that.
Yeah, so I actually meant to put this in here and I totally spaced on it. But as I was doing my research, so Jim Morrison was the third, but I believe Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix died roughly 10 months before him, around similar times.
Yeah, crazy, eh?
Or they either died all within 10 months of each other, or both of them died approximately 10 months before him. So less than 12 months apart.
It would have been a hit for the music industry, that's for damn sure. So born on the 19th of January, 1943 in Port Arthur, Texas. Janis rose to prominence in the late 1960s as the lead vocalist of the psychedelic rock band Big Brother and the Holding Company. They had some fun names back then, didn't they? Joplin's raw and emotional performances made her a cutting-edge figure in the male-dominated rock music scene at the time. She had a unique ability to infuse blues, soul, and rock into her music, captivating audiences with her electrifying stage presence. Joplin's most notable songs include, so you tell me what's one that comes to your mind first.
Oh, I actually can't think of any. Tell me which ones they are.
So the first one is So Come On.
come
on and
on.
take it. Take
Taking
another
out a little piece of my heart now,
baby.
baby.
So and Whoopi Goldberg does a great rendition of that in not Boys on the Side. It was the Boys on the Side.
Might have been.
Yeah, that's the one where the chick has AIDS in it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Andrew Barrymore. Fuck, I love
Yes.
that movie.
It's such a great movie. I love that movie too. I seen
love
it probably a couple of years ago and I was like, God, this movie holds up.
I made Vinny watch it, yeah. But I remember seeing it in the cinema and bawling at the end.
I saw it at the cinema too. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I need to make Tyler watch it. It's one that I should need to put
So
on the
good.
list.
So good. And Matt McConaughey's in it as well.
Yes. Yep. He's
That's
the
right.
army guy that Drew Barrymore ends up with after she
Yeah.
gets rid of all the dead shits.
Yes, and he was a hunk in it too.
Mm.
This one I don't really know, but it's like one of her most popular one, Me and Bobby McGee.
Oh yeah, I do know that one.
How does that go?
I can't think of it. Me and Bobby McGee. No, I don't have the beat. I apologize.
Oh, do you remember this one?
I think it's a bit slower. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to try and sing it again because it's going to be really bad, but I can faintly hear the melody in my head.
Yeah, I can't get it at all. This one, Summertime, and the living is easy.
Oh, no, I don't know that one.
It's a nice one. And
I feel like she did one on the Forrest Gump soundtrack too.
Well, she did this one, which you will definitely know. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all have Porsches. I think that's the lyrics. Do you know that?
Yeah, but what's the chorus of it?
That's kind of it. That chorus, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive Porsches.
Continue, please.
Despite her immense talent and success, Janis Joplin battled with personal demons, including drug and
alcohol abuse,
addiction. Tragically, she died on October the 4th, 1970, at the age of 27. Cause of her death was a heroin overdose. Joplin's untimely death was a shock to the music world and definitely left a void in the industry.
Fucking heroin again.
I know. Dirty drug.
Yeah, that was Jim too. Heroin abuse. See, I thought she drunk herself to death, Janis Joplin. I thought she drunk and spewed and.
Was that Jimi Hendrix choked on his own vomit?
I thought that was Janis Joplin too. I think I'm thinking of Mama Cass. Remember the Mama and the Papas, and she ate a sandwich or something, a ham sandwich.
Yeah, she choked on ham sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, hers was accidental heroin overdose. Discovered in a Los Angeles hotel room after failing to show for a scheduled recording session.
So sad. Silly duffers.
I know. She was known for her passionate and uninhibited stage performances, often characterized by her dynamic and unrestraining singing style. She had such a rough voice, didn't she? It was raw.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Her stage presence was captivating and intense, with her ability to pour her raw emotion into her performances. She was known for her charismatic and energetic delivery, captivating audiences. She had distinctive appearance as well. Do you remember? It's like one that either influenced, oh my God, Stevie Nicks, or they were influenced by the same person.
Yeah.
She embraced a unique and bohemian sense of style. She often adorned herself with flamboyant clothing, feathers, and jewelry, creating a visually striking image that complemented her powerful stage persona. Her individuality and fearless expression not only contributed to her artistic persona, but also made her an icon of the counterculture movement of the 60s. Her impact on the music and her role as a trailblazing female artist cannot be overstated. Her powerful voice, emotional depth, and unapologetic approach to her music paved the way for many female musicians who followed in her footsteps. Her contributions to rock, blues, and soul continue to inspire artists to this day, and she remains an influential figure in popular music history.
It's hard to know what she would have looked like later in life, because she's got quite a mature look about her at 27. Do you know what I mean? So I think
yes, she had some harsh features.
But yeah, it would have been interesting to see what she, how she
How she would
looked
have aged,
as
yeah.
she growed older. Apparently she recorded one of her last songs with John Lennon.
Oh, really?
Allegedly. Don't know how true that is. It just popped up. Oh no, her last song was a tribute to John Lennon.
Because he was he? No, he wouldn't have been dead at that age.
No, he wasn't dead yet. I don't think so. Hang on. No, he would have died before her, would he not have? 71, I think.
I thought he died in the 80s.
Oh, you could be right.
Yeah, 1980. Assassinated.
Of course, the year that I was born. Of course.
Of course. I've done the course.
Yes, of course.
All right, your next one, you stupid biatch.
Okay, so I'm going to go on to Kurt Cobain. So a little bit, jump forward a little bit further in time, please. Kurt Cobain was born in February of 1967. He was an amazingly talented American musician, the co-founder, lead vocalist, guitar, and primary songwriter for the rock band Nirvana. He also tragically died from suicide, a self-inflicted gunshot wound, in April of 1994 at his home in Seattle at the age of
26. 32.
7 is stupid bitch.
7, of course.
Cobain was found by an electrician arriving to install a security system. A suicide note was found near the body addressed to his imaginary childhood friend, Buddha, referencing his lack of excitement about producing new music for many years. And it no longer gave him joy. The coroner's report.
How was it tied to his imaginary childhood friend?
Addressed to his imaginary childhood friend, Boda. Yeah. So the coroner's report states that Kurt had been deceased for several days prior to his body being found. The electrician arrived at the property on April 8th, with the coroner believing his death occurred a lot more likely on April 5th. So Kurt suffered from not only a severe heroin addiction, heroin again, but also struggled with chronic mental health problems, including depression. This was not his first suicide attempt, and he also entered rehab facilities He had also entered rehab facilities in the past for support with his addiction and mental health. So I think that says a lot about him addressing his suicide note to an imaginary childhood friend too. He must have been in a pretty dark place. But then there's also a lot of conspiracy theories, which I won't go into, about him being murdered and his state of mind at the time that he died and the time of death and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So do you remember the day Kurt Cobain died?
Look, I remember it happening. I don't really recall the day he died. I know a lot of my friends, straight male friends, were very much into him and his music. I knew of them. I wasn't really a major Nirvana fan. I like a lot of their music today.
Well, look, I remember that when he passed on, I'm the same. Like, I don't remember the exact day or moment that it happened, but I remember that I barely knew who he was and had little knowledge of the band Nirvana until someone played a couple of songs for me.
Yeah,
I was in, I'm pretty sure grade 9. I was either grade 9 or grade 10, and all the muso type boys at school, who I hung out with quite a bit, were completely devastated over his death and moped around for days.
Yeah.
And I remember overhearing one of the girls remark at lunchtime how much she loved Nirvana, and one of the guys turning around and started screaming at her that she knew nothing about Cobain or the band or the music and was only into them because he died. And she was a massive fake. And in fact, all of us were fakes, and then stormed out of the lunchroom.
You don't
with
deserve to speak his name.
leaving the rest of us in shock. But then a few boys actually followed and were mumbling similar things like, you're all a bunch of fakes, you don't know anything. Like, and I remember them sort of just ended up being this little huddle of a group of people for a week or so, just only sticking to themselves and just like mourning the loss of Kurt Cobain and what would be Nirvana, because they'd really just started to take off. And they were just completely devastated. And I remember thinking, fuck, this band must be so fucking good, man, if it's got this whole group of youths just completely devastated. It was so funny when he turned around and just screamed at us all. We were just like, what the fuck, man? Chill out. So there began a new obsession for me, but I always felt completely robbed that I came to Kurt Nirvana's music after his death. I just think, oh, I do love Nirvana, and I love Kurt Cobain, and I love the music. And it was funny because when I was putting this together, Tyler was like, I never hear it. You listen to Nirvana. And I said, yeah, look, I certainly don't listen to it all the time now, but there was a time in my life where I listened to it religiously. And if a song comes on the radio, or if, you know, someone plays a song at a party or something like that, I'm like, oh, I love this song. But it's certainly not something I listen to regularly now.
Dying to get the vinyl of. Do you know they I remember because my brother Stuart was well into them, Nirvana as well.
Yeah.
And they did they were at a big day out, like at the very first big day out in Australia.
It's funny that you say that, because I thought the same thing, but I looked at it, but they never went to big day out, you know.
It says on January 25th, 1992, the first big day out was staged at Sydney. It started as Violent Femmes tour with an unknown Nirvana in the middle slot. The Sydney show drew 9,500 punters.
In January 1992?
Yeah.
Well, I've got their playlist. I've got from their website, and I searched Big Day Out, and I couldn't find anything about them going to Big Day Out. They went to, what was the venue for Big Day Out that year?
This was in Sydney. It was a Sydney only show, but it says, Violet Femmes played alongside Nirvana and arranged for other foreign and local music acts.
So they started in the Phoenician Club in Sydney, Australia, then Hordern Pavilion. Oh, there we go. Hordern Pavilion was Big Day Out. That's why.
Okay.
Because when I saw Hordern Pavilion, I've been to Hordern Pavilion, and I was like, that's not a Big Day Out venue, but probably in 1992 it was, because it was a much smaller thing.
And it was the first one.
Yes. Okay, fair enough. So look, I only wish that I knew about him when he was alive, so I could have enjoyed his music then before his untimely death. So they came to Australia once in 1992, starting their 11-show tour at the Phoenician Club in Sydney, traveling through Gold Coast and Brisbane, ending with a 12th show in New Zealand. They booked the tour while recording Nevermind, and by the time they arrived in January 1992, it was due to be released shortly after their return. So really the height of their success, or their debut album had already come out. The second heavily anticipated album
hadn't even been released,
was about to be released. So I'm going to talk a little bit before I go on to some of the other controversies of his death. I'm going to talk about his sexuality a little bit, because I thought you'd like this piece.
Good.
In October 1992, when asked, well, are you gay, by Monk magazine, Cobain replied, if I wasn't attracted to Courtney, I'd be bisexual. So there was a lot of comments, I think, and rumors, about his sexuality, as he was becoming more and more popular. In another interview, he described identifying with the gay community. I'm definitely gay in spirit, and I probably could be bisexual. And if I wouldn't have found Courtney, I probably would have carried on with a bisexual lifestyle.
Yeah.
But he also stated that he was more sexually attracted to women. He described himself as being feminine in childhood and often wore dresses and other stereotypically feminine clothing. Some of his song lyrics, as well as phrases he would use to vandalize vehicles and a bank, included God is gay, Jesus is gay, homosexual sex rules, and everyone is gay. One of his personal journals states, I'm not gay, although I wish I were, just to piss off the homophobes.
I love that.
Cobain advocated for LGBTQ plus rights, including traveling to Oregon to perform at a benefit, opposing the 1992 Oregon ballot Measure 9. I'm not sure if you know what that is.
No.
It was a ballot, like a political ballot. I did have a brief read of it, basically trying to name homosexuals as being wrong and unholy and all those sorts of things that we've heard a bunch of other times before in the past that they try to do. But he traveled there to perform at the benefit to oppose it in 1992.
Fantastic.
And supported local bands with LGBTQ plus members. He reported having felt different from the age of 7 and was a frequent target of homophobic bullying in his school due to his having a gay friend.
Wow.
It was a complex dude, right?
Yeah, and the 90s weren't a good time to be gay.
No, not at all. He's quoted by one gay publication as followed: "If any of you in any way hate homosexuals, people of different color, or women, please do this one favor for us. Leave us the fuck alone. Don't come to our shows and don't buy our records."
Love that.
I know. I thought you'd like that.
You know why? Because we're coming into Pride Month now, and one of the big things that organizations will do is like promote their pride joy and acceptance. You know, Target will put up their big rainbows, have their LGBTQIA plus section, and then afterwards it all sort of ends really quickly after June. You know, the pride stuff is gone, and they're monetizing obviously off the
Of course they are.
community. But you got someone like him who's saying, just don't come to our fucking show.
Yeah.
Like how Target would put up there saying, don't shop at our store if you oppose any of these, blah, blah, blah. It'd be more of a statement than just, hey, we love you guys. Here's some rainbow toothpaste.
Give me some merch that you have to pay for so we can make money.
Exactly. So I love that for him.
I know. I love that too. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Courtney Love.
Yes.
AKA whole front woman plus.
Yes.
So there are differing accounts of how Love and Cobain met, but most agree that Love made advances early on. However, Cobain was evasive. Early in the interactions, Cobain broke off dates and ignored Love's advances because he was unsure if he wanted a relationship. Cobain noted, "I was determined to be a bachelor for a few months, but I knew that I liked Courtney so much right away. It was a really hard struggle to stay away from her for so many months."
Oh.
Played hard to get, please. Cobain was already aware of Love through her role in the 1987 film Straight to Hell. Don't know what that is. The pair were formally introduced at an L7 and Butthole Surfers concert in Los Angeles. Butthole Surfers.
Butthole Surfers. Yeah, I did like L7. I loved a good female strong rock group, of course.
Yes. Well, is it would it be the same L7?
Yeah, not L7, that when we pretend that we're dead.
I pretend that we're dead.
When we pretend.
Yeah. Okay. So in the weeks that followed, after learning from Grohl, so Dave Grohl, obviously, that Cobain shared mutual interests with her, Love began pursuing Cobain. In late 1991, the two were often together and bonded through drug use.
Oh, what a way to form a relationship.
Form a bond. In February 1992, a few days after the conclusion of Nirvana's Pacific Rim tour, which concluded in Japan, I believe, after Australia and New Zealand, Cobain and Love were married on Waikiki Beach in Hawaii. She wore a satin and lace dress once owned by Francis Farmer, and he donned a Guatemalan purse and wore green pajamas because he had been too lazy to put on a tux.
Wow.
8 people were in attendance at the wedding, including... That's right. In Hawaii, please. Very relaxed environment. 8 people were in attendance at the wedding, including Dave Grohl. Love said that she was warned by the Sonic Youth bassist Kim Gordon that marrying Cobain would destroy her life.
Oh, wow.
Love responded, "Whatever. I love him and I want to be with him. It wasn't his fault. He wasn't trying to do that." The couple's daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, was born August 18th, 1992. A sonogram was included in the artwork for Nirvana's single Lithium. In 1992 Vanity Fair article, Love admitted to a drug binge with Cobain in the early weeks of her pregnancy. At the time, she claimed that Vanity Fair had misquoted her, but she later admitted to using heroin before she knew she was pregnant.
Oh, gosh.
The couple were asked by the press if Frances was addicted to drugs at birth. The LA County Department of Children's Services visited them after she gave birth and later took them to court, stating that their drug usage made them unfit parents.
Oh.
I know, but I mean, he died not long after that. So, you know, I guess that all got pushed aside a little bit.
Yeah.
So favorite Nirvana songs, please?
Heart-shaped box.
Oh, yes, that's one of mine.
Oh, again, like it's one of those groups I'll know them when I hear them, but to list them off, I'd be like, I don't know. Harley would kill me.
I know. Okay, so I was actually looking through the albums, and I was figuring. I always thought Nevermind was my favorite album, but I do like In Utero, so that's their third album. So Nevermind, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yes.
Something in the Way. Something in the way.
Don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
I know Smells Like Teen Spirit.
And then Come As You Are. Come as you are. As you were. And then Heart-Shaped Box. I love Heart-Shaped Box, and also All Apologies. But there's multiple other ones that are really, really good. Now, I just wanted to read a little bit. I must have forgot to put this into my notes, but there is a little bit about his tribute in Seattle. Just let me see if I can really quickly find it.
Dave Grohl going on to form Foo Fighters, still very successful band today. It's funny to think that he was the drummer in Nirvana and then he's the main front man for fucking Foo Fighters.
I know, and he's taken over the world, right? Really, with Foo Fighters. I'm not a massive Foo Fighter fan. Are you?
Look, I wouldn't get an album of theirs. I wouldn't definitely go out to buy an album on vinyl.
But you bop along a little bit to a song, but you wouldn't like.
And I'm pretty sure I've seen them at a few festivals, or maybe even gone to a concert just because everyone else was going at River Stage or something like that.
Maybe even gone to a concert. That speaks to the love right there, doesn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, like there are some good songs.
Yeah.
Seen them a big day out, I'm sure.
So I just want to add one little tidbit, and I am reading this from Wikipedia, but I did remember thinking this was quite moving, so I wanted to share this. So Aftermath, the day after his body was found. Oh no, my apologies. So it was found on the 8th, 2 days after, on April 10th. A public vigil was held at a park at the Seattle Center. So they lived in Seattle. Approximately 7,000 mourners turned up. Pre-recorded messages from Love were played at the memorial. She read portions of the suicide note to the crowd, crying and chastising Cobain, I believe, for killing himself and leaving. Near the end of the vigil, she distributed some of Cobain's clothing to those who remained. Grohl said that the news of Cobain's death was probably the worst thing that has happened to me in my life. I remember the day after that, I woke up and I was heartbroken that he was gone. I just felt like, okay, so I get to wake up today and have another day, and he doesn't.
Oh. Yeah, that would be weird, and especially at that age and in that height of fame and everything. And
yeah, they're babies, right? 27 is still quite young.
Totally. And you can say that when you're our age.
Yeah.
At the time when you're 27, you're like, I'm a man.
Yeah.
But you're still a baby.
Oh, 27. It's a baby time.
Yeah.
But yes, very sad. Very, very sad story, that one.
Sad.
So who's next for you, my love?
The one that we're rounding up the show with is Amy Winehouse.
Oh.
A more recent.
I'm surprised you left her for last, actually. I thought she would have been first out of the gate for you.
I do love my Amy's. So for those who don't know, where the fuck have you been? She was a British singer-songwriter known for all of mine were soulful ones, and expressive vocals. Born on the 14th of September in 1983 in London, England. She totally brought the beehive back, didn't she?
Oh, totally.
Not that I don't know how the fuck you actually do that. Do you have something set underneath it or what?
It's hard to say. I don't know how to do it.
You've never rocked the beehive?
No, I can't say that I have.
Yeah. Well, actually, I should say Marge brought it back and Amy followed suit.
Nat's actually worn a Marge week before. Remember what she's
at our 90s
She
party.
manages to do it, so maybe you should ask her.
That was at our 90s party at
Yeah.
the old house. So she rose to fame in the mid-2000s with her critically acclaimed album Back to Black. A homage to the jazz era combined with her personal
Great album.
Very good. Soulful delivery earned her widespread acclaim and cemented her as a distinctive and talented artist. So her music drew inspiration from various genres, soul, jazz, R&B, and reggae, which helped create her unique style. Her voice also, coupled with her honest and introspective songwriting, resonated with audiences worldwide. And some of her notable songs include...
I'm having a mind blank.
They try to make me go to
rehab. I said no.
Bitch should have said yes.
Totally.
And this one, which is a fave for us to perform on our Nintendo Wii Sing. I go back to
back.
Black.
You go back to her.
Yeah. Yeah, you always say goodbye with words. And actually, it's on our Glee Wii because Santana, may she rest in peace,
yes,
does a killer version of it in Glee. Do you remember the fucking global sensation Valerie that she did with Mark?
Oh, Valerie, I love Valerie. Valerie.
You know I'm no good.
How's that one go?
Oh God, I've got fucking Back to Black in my head. It's you know and I'm no good. Let me just bring up the lyric.
I think I do that even from that poorly done rendition. I do think I know which song you're talking about.
I cheated myself like I knew I would. I told you I was trouble. You know that I'm no good. No, I knew.
I don't know it now, no.
And what about Tears Dry My Own? My tears dry on their own.
No, don't know that one either.
Holy fuck.
Sorry, I know the popular ones.
There's some banging songs. No. Right. So I was in London actually during her heyday. So I got there in 2006. And I remember my first job that I started in Lambeth Borough Council, doing some admin shit. This chick who was there on a temp contract as well gave me a couple of her burnt CDs of her albums to listen to. And that's kind of when I first got into the...
Lovely old sharing the burnt CDs back in the day. CDs. I'll make you a compilation from my LimeWire.
And I'll write the name of the album in Nico on the front, so you can always remember it. So despite her undeniable talent, Amy Winehouse also struggled with personal challenges, including substance abuse, but also mental health issues.
Yep.
Tragically, on the 23rd of July in 2011, at the age of
27,
Winehouse was found dead in her London home. What a great last name, though, as well, Winehouse.
Cool last name. Total cool name.
The cause of her death was ruled as accidental alcohol poisoning. There was all this talk about her, though. I remember...
Wasn't she into heroin too? Because the boyfriend was into heroin, wasn't he?
Yeah, Pete Doherty.
Yeah.
He was like, they were all like, he was the Bobby Brown to her Whitney, basically.
Yes, and he was the lead singer of that other band that had a moderate amount of success.
Based on
in the UK,
fame. But yeah, but I remember in the lead up to her death, or even like the year before, I think I was still in London because that's when it would have made but I left London in 2009. Anyway, I remember hearing a lot of talk about there being concern that she intentionally wanted to join the 27 Club. Like that was one of her things. And I remember her mother sharing concerns about it prior to her death. And she'd gone into a really dark place.
A lot of grief. Yeah.
But yeah, and I just remember probably in the 2 years prior to her death, she wasn't really pumping out any music. You know, I don't think she had major hits after Back to Black album. She may have had one or two.
She got better a couple of times, didn't she, too? Like, or at least once where they thought she was okay and she was making a bit of a recovery and then she slid back.
Yeah. So bless her. Her passing shocked the music industry and her fans worldwide. Her unique voice and raw talent had earned her numerous awards, including 5 Grammys. Winehouse's influence can still be felt in music today.
5 Grammy wins, not nominations.
Wins, yeah.
Shit, considering our conversation, our episode a little while ago about the actual Grammy wins, remember we were going through that list of who'd won and who hadn't won. She's won 5.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
And all, I would say, based off Back to Black and probably Valerie that she did with Mark Ronson.
That was a top song. That was in the charts forever, Valerie.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. And she possessed a deep appreciation and knowledge of jazz music, which greatly influenced her musical style. She drew inspiration from jazz legends like Sarah Vaughan, Tony Bennett, and Dina Washington, and immersed herself in the rich history of techniques of jazz. You wonder what she'd be like today if she was still around. She'd be younger than us.
What year did she die again?
2011.
Oh God! Wow, over 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, despite being known for a
soul, closer to our age now.
Well, she was probably closer to our age back then too. She was born in 83, so she's 3 years your junior.
3 years my junior.
Yes, like you to me.
7 years.
So the gaps between us. Hey, you're only
8 years.
You're only 3 years, so it'll be 6, please.
Oh yeah.
33 years between us. Basic math also goes out the window when we don't have wine.
I told you my brain doesn't work when it's not inebriated.
Despite being known for a soulful...
It's about lunchtime, isn't it? We could have a little tipple.
It is. Really. Her bluesy voice, Winehouse incorporated jazz phrasing, improvisation, and vocal stylings into her songs, creating a unique fusion of genres. Using these abilities and into contemporary pop and soulful music set her apart as an artist. Bless her. This dedication to jazz and her desire to preserve its traditions made her a respected figure among jazz musicians as well.
That's not surprising.
Oh, bringing back the jazz. Vinny hates jazz.
I don't mind. It's not my go-to, but I don't mind.
I'd totally sit in a jazz hall and have a few cocktails while there was a jazz band there going, but that would be Vinny's idea of a worst nightmare.
Do you know, a couple of years ago when Tyler and I first started dating, we went to this oyster festival down at Edalong where we used to live, and there was a jazz band playing. They had it was like a massive big sort of theater with all little pockets of things, and it was a big festival. We were sitting in this one little restaurant area indoors, and they had a jazz band on, but they were called, I can't think of what they were called now. But they were the boat that had docked, the Navy boat that had docked, and they were the naval. Oh, there was something. Tyler was here, he'd know. Anyway, so they're all dressed in their uniform. And so what they used to do when they dock in different places, just out of boredom, I guess, because they were away from their families, they just created this band and they'd get up. They were playing jazz versions of popular songs in their uniforms with their instruments just while they were docked in that port. And then they'd get back on and they'd just go on, make a little bit of cash and just have a little bit of fun and pass the time and stuff like that. While they're on service.
Oh, very cool.
It was super cool. We loved it.
Having their hobby and taking it to the world.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode and learned a thing or two about those legends we lost too soon. While the member of the 27 Club share a tragic fate, their artistic contributions and impact on music should be celebrated. The focus should be on appreciating their talent and lasting legacy they left behind rather than solely on their membership to this club.
Tune in next week as we go back in time and cover some historical assassinations that shooketh the world. And that's it. Our 60th episode is done and dusted. Not long now before we achieve the big 100. So if you like what you hear, tell your mates, please. And remember, if you're whining, you're winning. Now, I do remember what I had to say to you just before, and I want to quickly throw it in there for the people who are watching this video, either through Spotify or YouTube. And I want to see if anyone agrees with me. In the background, the top right-hand corner of Sky's video, there is a folded sheet that to me looks like a little lamb that is sort of laid there. The black line across the top is his eye. Then he's got his little dot nose and then his floppy ear falling down off the side. So the lamb's facing towards your door.
I can see what you're talking about. I don't see no fucking lamb. I just see a blanket
goat.
that's folded haphazardly.
You see the long slit that's
Yes.
that's its
Yes.
eye, and then
Yes.
then it's its nose and its mouth,
Yeah.
and then its long ear comes up from its eye down and flops on its body.
I mean, it sort of looks like a flat lamb. I guess you could make that out of it. I can see the eye and the nose and all the bits that you're
And the
talking
mouth?
about, but it's very
You
flat.
see its smiley mouth under the nose.
Yes. Bah!
Bye, stupid bitches. Right, say good night. Good
Enjoy the
afternoon.
rest of your day.
Enjoy the rest of your day. We sure will. Love you.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That's stupid.